Hi there, everybody. It's Vicki Ross, and I need a brush. Watercolor always works better with a brush. Forgive me. Just for fun, let's use a calligraphy brush. Because now we're going to put the background in. So I need to get that soaking. Natural hair, so it needs to be soaked really well to activate. And while that's doing that, just find a little synthetic here and mix some paint. So I know it's a blue red, so I'm going to start with, that's not a blue red, Darling. How about alizarin? If you're trying to match a color, it's a pretty good idea to clean your palette out. Otherwise, I'll just leave it. Wet one to the rescue. Okay. Now, alizarin crimson is a red that tends toward blue, which makes it a cool red. Now it's going to take a lot, and you don't want to have to stop and mix more paint. This is where tube colors come in handy. Because you can squeeze out more. We could almost do straight alizarin. Pull that back a little bit so you can see it. Okay, I'm still getting more because I need more. This is why, if you start painting large pieces, pans just take more time. And now I'm going to put some purple. I'm going to put that right there. That's rose, I do believe. Here's purple. It's a bluish purple. Now I want a flat color all the way over. And I want some more red. Alizarin crimson. And I won't have a whole lot of water in it. I could lighten the color by adding water, But I'd like to do one pass and be done, so we don't have to deal with. But if we have to do a second layer, we will. I think a little bit more. These are Rembrandt paints, remember, so they're. I'm tired of hearing highly pigmented because it's used for everything, from dyes to craft paints. These are artist quality, so they're going to be stronger, and they're going to be using the top quality dry pigment. There are different qualities of pigments, just like there are cars. So if you want to talk about cars, Rembrandt's going to be using a BMW pigment. And craft paints use a Volkswagen Go. How about that? I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine. Okay, I'm going with it. I can tell you that I don't have enough mixed up. I'm just going to go on dry. I do believe it's going to take 2 coats. I forgot to change to my other brush. And now we need more paint. I told you. Okay. It's good for you to learn these things. It's even helpful to have little ceramic dishes like they serve wasabi in at a Japanese restaurant. That's another good reason to keep your mixes simple. These paints re-wet really quickly. And let's get some, oh, we've got some right here. And using my natural hair brush, that was a synthetic. And also learn by what not to do by watching me, because I left a beautiful hard edge up here. Watch out for your white areas. Take your time, Vicki. The synthetic just wasn't holding the paint and the moisture long enough. These are very inexpensive. And if I need to come back in on my flowers, a little bit of that. And we'll go again. I'm doing exactly what I told y'all not to do. But I get in a hurry and I want to get paint on the paper. Always use the belly of the brush when you can. That's where all the paint and the water are stored. Remember all those tests I showed you with how much water different brushes hold? This is why you want a brush that holds a lot. Don't ask me why I started right there at the bottom. I told you all in the beginning that I will show you the good, the bad, and the ugly with my techniques. Okay, now that will give us a layer. I'm pretty well dry brushing, so I should not get any blooms or backwashes because I use so little water. Now then, I'm going to mix up a lot of paint for the second coat. A tube of paint. The smallest tube, I think, is 5mm. That will fill up pretty much one pan, maybe two. If you get the larger tube, it's a little bit more expensive, but you can get 4 or 5 tubes out of that big one, 4 or 5 pans. So it's much more economical than buying individual pans full of paint. Because I'm really using this alizarin. I don't have any Rembrandt tubes, I don't believe. But I know how to fix that. I'm going to give this just 1 squirt of water, thin it down a little bit, and then go back in. This brush, by the way, is a low Cornell 70-20 ultra round. I've had this brush and its brothers and sisters for over probably close to 15 years now. They're synthetics, and I still use them. Synthetics have a place. And that was 15 years ago. In the meantime, they've developed a synthetic mixes that look more like, work more like a natural hair. I'm going to pop a dryer on that for just a minute. We're still just a little bit, I mean, it doesn't matter at all. It does not matter. But just for the sake of trying to mix what is on the paper. A, because you can. B, because it's good practice. See, that's a little bit warmer. I don't know why, but it is. And this time, I think I'm going to wet it first. There are so many millions of techniques and styles, and if you don't like the color the first time, just glaze it with something a little bit different. Okay, here we go. Holding it at a tilt so the water will gravitate toward the edge where I'm painting, and it will help me avoid hard lines. Now if I wanted a really flat color, I could do gouache here. But it is opaque, so you are going to get a little different look. I haven't done that much work with glazing. This is more of an illustration style. Now see if you've got any color pooling, and get a real tissue because that will dry slower than the other areas. So you want to get out that puddle and I like blooms. I don't have a problem with them at all. But in this particular one, I don't want them. I want nothing in the background. And a real tissue is more absorbent than a paper towel. Just keep checking because it will continue to move around. I just don't want any puddles. And now I think I'm going to go ahead and dry it. Now, no, get it up here in the light, blowing it out, but no runs. And I'm going to do it one more time because I want to get this side darker. It's still damp, so you can't go in yet. Now don't tarry, just try to just put one brush stroke over an area. because you will disturb those under layers if you keep rubbing at it. And even though these brushes are inexpensive, I still don't use them for mixing or digging paint out of the pans, because they're just not made for that. That Zen Zone that I talked to you about is not achievable if I talk. And it's while in the Zen Zone that my muscle memory takes over. And adds to an automatic process, which is where my mind can drift because I've turned it all over to the muse. And you can only do that with art after you have mastered, and by master I mean comfortable with different techniques and ways of getting paint onto the paper. Because when you're learning, you can't learn and drift off into the ozone at the same time. And I'm the same way. If I'm learning something new, I'm liable to have to go back to a book and read about it 2 or 3 times before I get my head wrapped around what it is I'm supposed to do. And then you need to be in a position to do it quite a few times until it becomes automatic, second nature. I'm telling you, it's better than a nap. Okie doke. Look for puddles. Particularly around the edges. And I'm not rubbing, I'm just touching, because I don't want to pick up any more of my paint than necessary. Okay, now dry. That is a pretty good flat background. Now, remember, make sure, keep my eye on those spots. If I'm painting something and I want a variation in the background, I will wet it and then drop in the 2 or 3 colors that I want to use. Maybe that's a little better. So I'll take the ultramarine and the red and put them on there separately, make sure they're wet, and just let them mingle together. But in this particular case, since I wanted an overall tone, I mixed it first. I gotta have some light. I gotta be able to see. You gotta be able to see. Now, here's another case for a synthetic brush. I don't want it to carry a lot of pigment because I'm going into these tight spaces. Just refining a few lines before we go on. Okie doke. Now I'm going to mix up my green again, and I'm going to use cad medium. It's a little dirty, but it doesn't matter at all, because I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine. And now I'm getting a brown. So I'm going to keep that brown though, because it's a good neutral for going back. Any places that I see on my flower that need a little. That's better. Don't need so much of this. That's purple. I've got something mixed up on this palette. That's why I'm getting the brown. Okay. I'm going to use that one. I thought that's supposed to be ultramarine right there, but now this will get us close to a sap green. Isn't that pretty? And if I want it a little darker, I can put a little more blue in it. I have mixed up a color close to the value of the background. And that way, this side of the flower stem away from the light, wait a minute, the light's over here. This is where having good paper comes in handy. Let it get wet. Not getting a whole lot. A little. That's the fresh. See, I told y'all it's good to watch me mess up. It's not really a mess up, it's just an alteration. Now, let's go again. Now, the dark is over here. And what I'm doing right here is making this edge disappear. And why do we do that? It's for interest. We want the viewer to really take a look at this and see what you've done. And they'll see all these little nuances. I'll leave that alone, not come back to it. Need to look at my picture. I was trying to get off there, wasn't I? I put a little bit of that purple in there. To make this thicker. And a little bit of that darker down the side. This is what you call lost and found edges. Right now, all of my edges are pretty sharp. So I'm going to soften some of the edges that are away from the light. This is our focal point. And I'm going to do that with mixing up a color. I don't think that's going to do much. That's quinacridone gold. It might. Now what I'm trying to do is get kind of the flower color, but a little bit of red in it, so I can disappear some edges over here. Just mixing it up to get the value right. Rinse the brush off and then dry a little bit, blot it. Okay, now I'm going to do it over here. Clean the brush, dry the brush, and bring it right down over that line to help soften it. It'd still be a little bit darker. This appears to be raw sienna. Wrong one. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of orange. How about a little of the cad red? Just kind of dry brushing that on. This is going to help add values to the flower now that we've got the background in. And you don't have to outline it. You can just come in This isn't a race. That little thing has a doohickey, which I can go ahead and add back. It's with a leaf folded back on itself, or the petal. And I can bring that. I just used a little bit of the background color. A little bit of red doesn't hurt anything. Rinse the brush, dry the brush, come back in and blend. And I need some green over here. Just dry brushing a little bit over here. Dry brushing adds just a little texture. Let's try just a little bit of a glaze. A blue, and I'm going to glaze it right here. Now, because I have that yellow under, it's glowing through the blue. I can come back with a little bit of that. Cadmiums are a little more opaque. Come back in and give it some variation. And that's the effect of glazing. This flower's been out longer, so it doesn't really have anywhere to go as far as greens. Just strengthening the color where I think it needs it. Now we still, as yet, have not used any white. I don't think I'm going to need to. I'm coming back on this stem with cad yellow. Don't mess with your paper white. I've darkened some places that weren't dark, but my inkjet print is faded a little. I try to always print on proofing, but sometimes one slips by me. I'm going to leave that because this is a shadow area from something. It also looks like it could be a little bit darker right in there. A little bit of cad red for a pop of color there. There. I like red. put a little bit of the bright red in the green. See, these are things that you don't see from a distance, but you see when you get up close, which makes a painting have more interest. Just pull up just a little bit for and I think that's all I've got to say about that. So I will sign it. That's a blue pastel pencil. Let me see if I've got a green in here somewhere. That's a charcoal. This will be good. This is an orange pastel pencil. Simple. There you have it. And you don't really want to call attention to your signature. But there it is. I'm going to snap a picture of her. They're hers. Yeah, in order to flatten that out, you just spray water on the back of it and put it under something heavy. Which I just want it enough right now for the picture, for a picture. I'll probably have to take another one, but yeah, culling too much. Paper is a wonderful thing. And you got to be careful about those spots, Vicki. There. Alrighty. That'll do it for Zen Zone number 4B, I believe. Let's do it without the lights on. A little bit better. Mine's a darker red. Alrighty. Thank you guys. I will see you next time.